Okay, we're ready again. Okay. Ed, you then came on board and had to plug into a curriculum, a program that was just 2 years old. Probably came with some expectations, and what did you run into? What did you find when you got here, and how did it work out?
Well, I think they broke me in gently. I felt fairly confident of myself. These guys were working on computers, and I was at an infant stage, and I kind of was in the background of that. But nobody was teaching architectural drafting. We had a construction program at the time, so I did that and worked with George Cox, who was in instruction. And then there was Mickey McWilliams, really liked illustration, technical illustration. And I started up that program, which was an offshoot of the drafting, and worked with the art department a little bit and put that together. And that was really exciting. There were areas that I was not an expert in, and I got it on the phone and just called an artist in town and said, "Could you help me?" And then they do it. It was, and there was no inhibitions at that time, and it was great. And I was fortunate to get tied up with some local industry, and got a reputation, I think, with them, and supplied them with some illustrators. And that started way back in the early 70s, and I still had contact with past students as I left the college, still trying to hire people from us.
We've had considerable mention of computers, and the whole drafting program moved that direction, became kind of a focus, really, an emphasis. I'd like you guys to share with us something about that. Is that evolved? What name you gave it? How big a part of the whole drafting department did it become?
I'd like to talk about how we got started, maybe. The first year of the college, 68, there were no computers in the college. None. In that summer, we let's see, two of us. McWilliams and I went to Illinois State and learned how to do what we call computer graphics, working with Fortran language and an IBM 1130 computer, and really learned how to make a drawing with a computer. It's a very time-consuming, hard task. So the second year of the college, we came back. The college had an 1130 computer. We had a guy from IBM come out and hardwire a plotter right into the back of the computer for us. And we were doing what we call computer drafting, computer graphics. And at that time, really there was only about one or two other businesses in town that knew anything about it. And so when we started offering classes, we really were able to bring in managers and top-level people that wanted to know how this thing worked, and ran the computer after hours, and it was really a pretty interesting time. From then, we started offering classes, and more students started picking it up. Again, we were way early on what we called computer graphics at that time. Went through a period of years when it was a novelty, and then we got into a period, early 70s, when it kind of fell off, and then we picked it up again when the IBM PC came out, and it's been very strong ever since. So it's been quite a deal.
Your comments, Ed?
Well, we had Charlie D. as a dean at the time, and I think local industry, we had advisory committees, and he kind of spearheaded it, and there were 7 companies, and they said it was time that had used computers, and this would be Eaton's and Burroughs Manufacturing and Upjohn and a few others. So only 7, and they came to him and said, "We need to do something." So it was through Charlie D. that we had a special advisory committee, and I think we purchased about 5 computers, probably at about $10,000–$15,000 a piece, and used basic language in a very infant drafting program at that time that we purchased from the east side of the state. which did not survive the PC market, and we had to change again. But that was our initial, and it was fun, exciting. There was such a demand for our first course, and I think Frank and I team taught it probably. And we all did training together. Dave Dobbs really kind of pushed that a little bit, that we all got into it and got all knowledgeable. But our first class was such a demand for it, and at that time you always attracted the movers and shakers, as I like to call them. And we said we would put the names in the hat and draw them out to see who would take the course. But we looked in the hat and made sure there was somebody from every local industry that was interested. And then it just progressed from there. And by the time we were done, we probably invested $250,000 in that first group of computers. We added some. And 5 years later, they were what we considered boat anchors. And then we got into the PC world and went that route.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, I'm sure with as many years as both of you taught here that you've got some favorite memories, some highlights, some people, some stories. What comes to mind that you guys were sitting playing cards, or what would you reminisce about?
Well, in the early years, there were a lot of deans that came and went pretty rapidly.
Yeah.
Some that I never even saw being in on the original staff, but there were a lot of changes in the early years. So long hours, a lot of work. Don't know.
Long hours, a lot of them. And working in a college where you could have an idea, and if you followed through it, you could do it. And that's been true since I've been here. There was resources available. That was probably my biggest shake from Wisconsin. I just wasn't used to the resources that were backed up by the money of the auto industry. You talk about times, we had the poker parties. I brought something from Wisconsin called bratwurst, and we had some bratwurst and beer parties that lasted until, still have them. And one other item, you can take it how you want it, Paul, but that was the strike. And we were heavily involved in that as a technical group. I don't know if Frank was negotiating then.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that was a major thing. Dave Dobbs had his youngest son in a stroller with us, and so that was a major item. And I think it, looking back, was kind of a pivotal point for the whole college. And I think we haven't been close to one since, and I think it was great. But we had that moment.
Let me say something about our technical department. We made an effort to not only have poker parties for the guys, but at least once or twice a year have the spouses involved too, so that we knew each other. We worked closely together, and we wanted to make sure that everyone knew each other. So that's been a social event that kind of keeps us together too, which I think has been a good thing.
And we worked together here on campus and off. We would help each other move.
Yeah, the early years we did a lot of moving, a lot of heavy stuff.
Poured a lot of concrete, built houses. Some of us built houses, some of us built a bunch. I drew house plans. There's quite a few faculty that live in houses that I drew up.
All right, well, you're both at the beginning of your retirement, and both of you here more than 30 years. A couple of things. First of all, when you signed the contract and came, did you have any idea it would be a career, that this was going to be the rest of your professional life? And then you've already commented a little bit about it, Ed, but maybe both of you could comment further about what kept you here. I mean, I've heard a lot about long hours and some things that were difficulties, but something kept you here that maybe says something about you or about KVCC or about people here. I don't know.
Well, we used to kid in the early years about jumping on every bandwagon that came by. Every new educational idea seemed like Helms Valley was doing it. That meant a lot of work, but it also was exciting. It meant that we were somehow on the leading edge, and that was exciting. So what keeps you here, I think, is the fact that the school is doing well, and your department's doing well, and it feels good. It feels good to be with a winner. So when I originally signed the contract, no, I didn't think I'd be here 33 years, but the excitement of having a good, strong school and being identified with, having that reputation that keeps you here. Been fun.
I really didn't want to come. This was
One in every crowd.
this looked like a great job opportunity. I was from a much smaller community. This was a cultural shock to me moving here. Wasn't really quite used to it yet. I'd never been in Chicago in my life before I came here. And driving through that after I was looking for housing here was quite an experience with my young son and wife. So we said we'd be here a year or two. And then it became evident after not too long that this was a pretty good place to raise a family. And we were part of a good group of people. Our technical area that we were close to was a real good, close group. And we had the opportunity to do things. And we had advisory committees, and we were budgets and all that sort of stuff that we worked with and had support. And it was just great. And I remember thinking, what am I going to do when I was about 40 years of age? I've done just about everything I want to do. And then these computers came along. And that was about 82. And that just changed the whole thing. That was an educator's, blessing or whatever, because it meant we had a lot of people that trained and a lot of exciting people that wanted to learn this stuff. And we had to do it ourselves.
All right, any thing that's come to mind, any story, any particular idea that we've not talked about that you'd like to bring up before we quit?
Go ahead.
I just appreciate the support that we've had because it's been a large monetary commitment, our area, with all the changes. And being part of industry, and we've seen our technology, especially in manufacturing, and feel we've been part of that at our level in the engineering related areas. And we've had a viable college to do it with, and it's been a great ride.
Yeah, huge changes, but we feel good about it. So, feel good about the college's participation and the role that we've had in it. It's been fun. It's been challenging, but it feels good.
So we grow old together, turn gray.
Hey, maybe.
Lose our hair,
Maybe.
whatever. And call it
Maybe.
fun.
Yeah, sure.
We, for a lot of years, we spoke about this being Happy Valley. Was it? Is it?
Oh, I think for the most part,
What makes it?
it's a pretty good place to work, and like I say, you look back and you see the achievements of the college and the program, and you can feel good about it. Yeah.
I think the stable leadership we had at the top, 2 presidents, had a lot to do with it.
No, not much turnover there.
Yeah.
Not much turnover.
There,
And good continuity, good leadership.
We had trends, which was technical occupational group that we had up usually in Traverse City, and we meet there once a year. And we saw a lot of people doing a lot of different things, but we always came back. And Dave Dobbs was a North Central evaluator, and he helped us a lot with a lot of ideas as he traveled around the country for evaluations around the Midwest. And he always kissed Mother Earth when he got home and told us all. And I think that whole realm, we had his input because he had a broad perspective and our own desires and ideas, and it just all added.
All right, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And
We're in.
CAD, computer drafting, descriptive geometry.
Anything. We're all set?
All set.
And we have Fred Toxopeus and Art Parker. And Fred is one of the original faculty members, and Art came in
74.
4 years later?
74.
5 years later.
Yep.
Okay. And so I'd like to start with Fred, if you would give us some background to your pre-KVCC days. What had you been doing, and where'd you come from? What were your goals? What brought you here?
Okay. Yeah, I graduated from Michigan State University, and my first teaching job was in Muskegon Heights High School. And one of the students I had in class was this big husky guy sitting next to me, Art Parker. And he wasn't husky then. And he was a pretty good student. And then from Muskegon Heights, I went to another high school, Mona Shores High School, and I taught part-time at the Muskegon Community College. And who should I have in class but Art Parker again. So Art Parker and I go way back. And then in '68, the college opened, and I interviewed with Dale Lake over on White's Road. That's before we had a campus here. And Dale Lake offered me the job, and I claim that I was the first faculty member hired. And there's other pioneers that claim they were, but most of them are retired now, so they don't have much say. And when we started at KVCC in '68, it was very exciting. Everything was new. There's no traditions. And as a matter of fact, I can remember the first day of class in one of my math classes, we had no chalkboard and no books. So that was quite a challenge to to teach, but we survived. And we had committees back then. And I was chairman of the Academic Affairs Committee. So any kind of change that you wanted in your course or in the curriculum, you had to get it approved through the Academic Affairs Committee. So you came to our committee, and then we discussed it, debated it, and if we approved it, then we had to go to the faculty. And we had a faculty meeting, all the faculty. And these were in a big room, and then the faculty voted on these decisions. And it was kind of an unwieldy process, but that's the way we started. And I really enjoyed it here. KVCC is a great place to work. We've had 2 great presidents, and got great faculty, good staff, and real good facilities. I really love it here. And someday I'll retire, but I'm going to wait until my student Art here retires, and we're going to go out together.
Well, I'd like Art to overcome his shyness and inhibitions. Tell us about your background and experience in your pre-KVCC days. What brought you here?
Well, I graduated from Muskegon Heights High School, like Fred says. Met him in 1961. From there, I went to Muskegon Community College. I went through a 2-year drafting design program very similar to what I'm teaching in right now. From the 2-year program at the community college, I went to work for a company over in Muskegon, one of the world's largest designers and builders of precision ground bearings. So we were very involved with the NASA program. We made bearings from 1 inch in diameter up to 178 inches in diameter. We're talking about precision equipment that was hand-built there on site. At the time, being just out of college, I learned a lot. And one of the problems I ran into there was the lack of a 4-year degree. So I worked there until 1969. 1969, I came to Kalamazoo to finish my bachelor's degree. And from there, before I graduated from Western, I was hired by the Kalamazoo public school system to teach. So I worked at the Kalamazoo Central for 1 year, 3 years at Lower Norix High School, and then I finished my master's degree in 1972. So I started teaching part-time here at KVCC, January 1974. Was offered a full-time position and started here full-time August 1974. So when I came here to Kalamazoo Valley Community College, it was just what I was looking for, and that was working with adult students. And my background in engineering and manufacturing has complemented my teaching skills here at KVCC, even today. So with the background in engineering and working with the students today, my students are employable any place in the world. So the first thing I start off on the first day of class is I tell them what drafting is. For a non-student of mine, drafting is a foreign language. So what we have to teach them is how to look at things from an engineering perspective. So we teach international standards. So when we talk about diversity and internationalism, we've always done that in the drafting program. So our students, we teach them basic drafting. We teach them the English system of measurement and also the metric system of measurement. And then international symbols. So they can interpret any drawing, whether it comes from Japan, China, Germany, it doesn't matter. Our students are capable of interpreting those drawings and making heads or tails for the manufacturing processes. So our students are employable any place in the country or any place in the world. So today with the international marketplace for companies like Upjohn, Aeromotive, Eaton Corporations, that's where our students are employed. There are CEOs of companies that are former students. There are students that are working in any company in the Kalamazoo area or in the United States. General Motors, we got former students that are employed there. So when I came here in 1974, it was a 4-person department and everything was manually drawn. We still teach manual drawing because manual drawing is similar to teaching math on a computer or on a calculator. You still have to know the concepts. So manually drawing, yes, we can convert to the computer, which is just a tool. Our students need to know still how to read a scale, a fraction scale, a decimal scale, and then a metric scale. They still need to know what 1 inch looks like on a sheet of paper. So we still teach manual drawing skills, and then we use a tool of the computer for computer-aided design and computer-aided drafting. So that's where we are today. So on Monday morning, we will start off reviewing how to read a scale properly and put it in the right perspectives.
All right, great. Fred, you experienced what a number of us did in '68. They handed us a catalog, such as it was, course descriptions, and said, "Here, go do it."
Right.
And we had no syllabus, no course outline, nothing of that type.
Right.
So, tell me about the struggle, the problems, the fun was that of creating a program and a department and what have you from scratch, really.
Yeah, right. When we started, there were 3 of us in the math department, and now I think we have 14. And we met, I think, 2 weeks before classes started at the Southwell Warehouse, which was a restaurant with a big meeting room. And because the college wasn't ready at that time, and we had a community college guru there by the name of B. Lamar Johnson, and he talked to us and tried to fire us up. And of course, we were new; most of us were very young, and we were very excited. And yeah, we had the curriculum, we had the courses all dictated to us, because during the summer of '68, they had division chairmen that they hired that were on staff, and they wrote up all the courses, all the curriculum, and gave it to us. And they said, "Here, go do it." And it was very frustrating, and some of the things that they had written up were good, and some were not so good. And the calendar was something else too. Instead of having a typical 16-week semester that we have now, we had what was called a split semester. We had a 13-week followed by a 3-week cap session. And the cap session is called College Approved Programs. And I think Dale Lake, this was his idea, and it sounded real good. And we were fired up. And but in mathematics, what can you do in 3 weeks with the students? You could go out in Paul's area, and he did archaeology, and that had a nice project. But in math, we were pretty well restricted, so we had to teach a math class in 3 weeks. And so we worked on that, and after a few years, when the students weren't signing up for these three-week cap sessions, we went to the traditional 13-week semester. But it was fun. It was very exciting, and the new faculty members, that first year in '68, Dale Lake gave us the title of pioneers. And I think we had like 42 pioneers, first-year faculty instructors, and the first year we had 1,500 students. And now we're down to, I believe, 7 pioneers. And we don't get much respect anymore. Back then, we got a lot of respect because we were the key.
Respect from each other. That's all
the
we
key
got.
elements. And but now we're down to 7, and it's going to be interesting to see who is the last pioneer to leave KVCC. But Art, he has a definition of a pioneer. What was your definition?
Oh, the first people off the bus.
First people off the bus. Thank you, Art.
Man, bus load, I'm the first one off as pioneer. Everybody follow.
But one of the pioneers, one of the math instructors was Dan Owen. It was Dan Owen, myself, and Lowell Stoltz. And Dan had a knack of being real cool, calm, collected. He could get people calmed down or excited. Lowell used to get excited about things, and he was just a great guy. And before we had a division chairman that was a very dictator the first 2 years. And fortunately, he left to another college, and they selected Dan as the replacement for the division chairman. And things really went great because he was such a nice guy to work with. And Dan and I liked skiing, so we got skiing together at Timber Ridge, and we formed the first KVCC ski club and took some students up to Traverse City there for a while. And Dan was also interested in flying. He took flying lessons here. And then he got his instructor's license, so he was teaching others to die and then to fly. And then, unfortunately, Dan passed away unexpectedly while playing racquetball with his daughter and the pastor. And Dan was a great guy, and I miss him.
Dan, I guess with a heart attack.
Right.
Yeah, heart attack on the racquetball court.
He wasn't that old.
No.
42. It was about 1975 when that
Shock
happened.
to everyone.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I think he was probably the first of the members of the faculty to pass away. Certainly the first pioneer faculty.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Pass away.
And it was a real shock to the faculty and the administration, and we were at a loss because he was division chairman. He's well respected, and the kids liked him. And I had to step into one of his classes after he passed away and take over his class, and that was a very difficult thing to do because the students all liked him, and I liked him, and it was difficult.